Hello, I'm Sean McAngus, and this is episode 21 of the Highland League podcast season 2. Today's guest is Huntly manager Allan Hale. In this podcast, he talks about playing for Fraserburgh, his first opportunity in management at Maud, managing at Keith, and much more. Hope you enjoy this interview. Your earliest memories of playing football?
Probably school football. So obviously when I was younger, I stayed in Bucksburn. So probably the earliest memories was, the 4v4 festivals that we had down at the Old Hampden, and then just playing school football. So, the Champion Street Festival and tournament that they used to have at Woodside every year for all the schools in Aberdeen. It was probably my earliest. Never played for any boys club team or anything, within the time that I was at Aberdeen. And then we moved to the Bra, first year of the academy. And again, didn't really play football until under 16s, where I then went to link up. And then after that, kind of disbanded at 17s. I then went to amateur football with Invercairn United, and obviously there we played the Broch 18s in one pre-season friendly, and Charlie obviously invited us into Broch training, and things kind of took off from there.
Yeah. So what do you recall about your Fraserburgh debut?
It was a long time ago. I remember it being a Scottish Cup game at home, and I was actually out on loan at Broch United at the time. The first team had picked up a lot of injuries, so Charlie had called a couple of us back on loan just to kind of fill the bench for a Scottish Cup game, and the team were obviously playing really well. I can't remember what the score was, but it was a pretty convincing score. So Charlie doing what Charlie done best, and giving young players the opportunity, he threw them on with, I think it was like 10-15 minutes to go or something, and the only thing I remember is chasing down a ball that I was never ever going to win, and running into the railings that the supporters stand behind. So that was my recollection of the debut for the Bra.
So what was it like playing under Charlie Duncan?
Charlie was a first class manager. Really experienced about the game, obviously, in terms of his own playing career. Knew how to get the best out of a team. I thought he was very hard manager. He was a winner, demanded high standards, but he was also very fair on the group. His man management qualities, I thought, were excellent. If you had a bad game on a Saturday, Charlie would be the first person up to you after the game, reassuring you that he believed in you, telling you not to overthink things, and go back into training through the week, and just focus on trying to put the next performance right. And I think that was a good thing about Charlie is, he would never hold grudges, and as I said, his man management qualities were excellent, and he just had a way of getting the best out of his squad, and he done that year on year, and there was no surprise. When a manager spent 28 years, I think it was, at one club, you're obviously doing something right if you're staying at a club for that length of time.
Yeah, so how important do you think he's been in terms of the way Fraserburgh continue to produce players over the years?
I think he's been hugely important. He set that standard in terms of what the Broch was about, and the Broch's a unique club in the Highland League. You only really understand that once you're there and once you've played for the club, and the local community get right behind the team and the players, and they've got a fantastic board and committee that do a lot behind the scenes. And it's great to see that they've continued that under Chris and Mark since Charlie's obviously left, and they've still got that conveyor belt of talent coming through, and they've still been highly successful. So yeah, Charlie's obviously laid the foundations, but then the next managers have came in and put their own stamp and ideas on things, but still maintained the ethos of what the club's all about.
How did you find the step up to Highland League from amateurs?
Really difficult to start with, because I was never one that was blessed with huge technical ability. Certainly in my early days, I stepping up into Highland League, the one thing that went in my favour was, I had rapid pace, and Charlie obviously saw that as an asset in terms of helping the team, and he was someone that just threw me in, and once he gave me that game in the Scottish Cup, he kept me with the first team after that, and after a period of time, he started giving me starts, and he was obviously a player that he felt, with me, that you could trust to get in performances on the pitch, and he was great with me personally, done a lot for me in my career, and obviously owe him a lot. But the step up was really tough, really physical, a lot more technical and tactical, obviously. obviously the standard, stepping up from amateurs was tough. So it took a while to adapt to that, obviously. But I always felt I had an attitude where I just came in at training, got my head down and worked hard and tried to get into the team. And over time, I'm quite happy with what we achieved. My time there and thoroughly enjoyed it as well.
So what was it like playing in a team that was so successful?
Yeah, I mean, like winning a trophy, there's never a better feeling in football than winning trophies. Obviously, I've been on the end of some defeats in cup finals too, and every defeat still hurts yet. But everyone's in football to win trophies, and when you get that feeling, especially the first one, which I was only in the first team a couple of months when we won the qualifying cup. And the way that we won it was a difficult game. I remember the game really well, and Keith played really well, and then Mikey got a goal, and then Dixon scored a cracker as well. And that feeling, once you replicate that feeling, it's one that you always want to replicate. So yeah, very fortunate that I had the opportunity to experience that a few times. As a player at the Broch, and at the time, we were never really seen as real challengers to the league like what they are now. We were always more or less seen as a cup side at the time. But as I said, over the years, we've done quite well, and it's no surprise to see them doing so well and still having success now.
So in terms of the coaching side, I was reading how you're involved with the Aberdeen. So how did that come around?
So I was at college. I was at Banff and Buchan College, and then went through to Aberdeen College to do my sports coaching, HNC and HND. So obviously with that, you go through, your early touches, coaching qualifications, and it was obviously delivered by the staff at Aberdeen at the time. So obviously within that course, there was an opportunity that came up that there were some vacancies within the community department. So I'd obviously went in there, done the after school coaching, the summer holidays and the holiday camps and things like that, which was a great experience, to learn and work under some great coaches, get put through your coaching badges at the same time, and having the support of guys like Neil Simpson, Jim Crawford, Scott Anderson and Stuart Glennie at the time. They were all the head of the community, so great to learn off of them and the coaches that were there. Some great coaches at Aberdeen, and that obviously led to an academy role very briefly before I kind of gave that up just to focus on my own football with the Broch.
You left to go to Maud. Sold you on that move?
Well, I guess firstly, I kind of had a season at the Broch where I picked up a hamstring injury up at Nairn, where I tore my hamstring, and after that, I kind of found myself in and out of the team. That was the first kind of serious injury that I had within my career. With that, I lost a lot of confidence, from the previous 2 seasons under Charlie. I felt I was playing well and contributing to the team. I think I'd scored the last 2 seasons before. I scored over 20 goals in that 2 seasons. And that first season that Chris came in, I just felt, with the injury that I had, I just kind of lost my way a little bit. With being injured and struggling to, be in and out of the team, I just kind of lost my overall enjoyment for the game. Under Charlie as well, I was coaching the youth teams, and that was something that Charlie always encouraged me to do, because he knew that I was obviously coaching Aberdeen and doing some things locally in the Broch as well. But that obviously stopped when Hunter came in, because he took in his own staff, and he wanted the players to focus on the football and things, which was fair enough. And to be honest, I wasn't really looking to move on. I'm a Broch loon, staying in Broch. Obviously, and playing for the Broch was an honour, like it is for so many people that played for the Broch. And I wanted to stick it out, get myself fit, and then prove my worth to the team. But then obviously towards the end of that season, Gary Mann had called me, and he was someone that I'd been working with, coaching with the council in and about Aberdeenshire, and he called me up to say that he was getting offered the Maud job, and that he wanted me to go in as player co-manager. So obviously we met up and had a chat and things, and I liked what you had to say, and what you wanted to do, and how he saw me fitting in, and the way I saw it was an opportunity to go there and still play, but get involved in the coaching side of things. And I was young. I was only 24, but I kind of jumped at it without thinking about things too much, and that was kind of it. It went pretty quickly, and went up to Maud from there.
So how was the partnership in terms of co-managers?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think the transition from going from playing to management was a real eye opener to start with. Obviously initially Gary and I, shared the responsibilities equally, so I could still concentrate on playing. But then Gary had obviously left quite early in the process, due to a mixture of family and family issues, and probably underestimating the challenge of what management at that level kind of entailed. So I think it was a few months I then became manager on my own, and then Gavin Weems, who had obviously played with Bra, he was in as a coach with us, and he then stepped up to be my assistant. And then management's tough, it can be a very lonely place at times. When you win, you kind of really enjoy it because your focus immediately turns to the next game, and all the preparation that's involved in that. And then when you lose, it's a huge responsibility on your shoulders to pick the players up and deal with all the criticism that comes your way with not getting a positive result for the supporters and the team. So, yeah, it's a challenge. Management's not easy, but it's one that I enjoy. And especially at Huntly now, we've got a fantastic team of people who work really well behind the scenes to share the burden on that. 10 years later, we're still here.
Yeah, so what are your favourite memories from Maud?
Maud, I mean, we'd kind of we took over Maud. They were second bottom, and I think they were 2 points away from being relegated when me and Gary came in. And obviously we were there for 3 years. Taking them from second bottom to run us up in the Super League, got to cup finals every season. We're always in the latter stages of cup competitions as well, and we had a really good Scottish Cup run. The last year that was there. So the only thing that was missing was a trophy. But then I felt at the time that I'd left for Keith, I felt that the squad that we'd assembled was probably the best squad that I could have assembled in my time there. And within that year and a half before I went to Keith, there was constant interest from Highland League teams, and we were always fending that off. And I was never one to stand in players' way, but I was very fortunate that the players believed that we were capable of going on and winning trophies in the juniors. So players had obviously turned down opportunities before, but we knew that wasn't going to be forever because the players that we had were all ambitious and they wanted to step back up and improve themselves in the Highland League. So. I guess I knew it was a squad that was going to break up at some point, and the job of replacing players of the quality that we had at Maud, in the dressing room and the characters and the whole environment that we had there, was going to be near impossible. So when the Keith opportunity came up, I think it was a case of feeling like I was ready to take the step into Highland League management, but also knowing that I'd probably achieve the best in terms of what I was going to achieve at Maud. So when the Keith opportunity presented itself, it's one that I felt I couldn't have turned down at the time.
Yeah. So what was it like? Was there much of a step up, or was it the same?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I found it as big a step up. Maybe apart from dealing with bigger characters who sometimes were maybe motivated by other factors as opposed to just the football like Maud. At Maud, the boys and they get paid big wages, so all the players were there, for footballing reasons where, there's obviously a bit more financial gain, within the Highland League. So that was something that maybe there was a period to adapt to. But, in terms of the dressing room at Keith, we had a great dressing room, a group of players who were fully committed. All of them were on board of what we're trying to do in the sense that, it made that step up quite straightforward. Now, obviously, there's a step up in quality, and as a manager, I learned a lot, tactically during my time there, in terms of what maybe worked at the juniors for Maud, in terms of how open and expansive we were. Maybe didn't necessarily work at Keith, so we had to adapt over the time. And there was certainly plenty of mistakes made, from my part, during my time at Keith.
One of the standout things I remember being at one of the matches was the run that you went on, that you went 6 wins in a row. What do you remember about that run?
To be honest, I probably just remember the dressing room, and having a group of players that were motivated, that were focused, and they played, with the belief that they could turn up in a match day and go toe to toe with the big teams and try and win games of football. During that period, the team played some real entertaining football, and the players played with the motivation and the belief that they could go there and win games. So, to me, going on that winning run was never a surprise, because I always felt that I believed in the quality that we had in the dressing room at Keith, and it was just a disappointment, I guess, that we couldn't find more consistency, over the course of the season to maybe get a higher finish.
Yeah. So in terms of the players playing with freedom, how encouraging and how chuffed were you with that?
Yeah, look, I think confidence plays a big part in football. And obviously at the time, we were on a winning run, and when the players are playing with confidence and belief, they're not scared of losing games. So they always tend to play a bit more free, in terms of not having that anxiety and fear of losing. As a manager, I always encourage my teams to get into positions higher up the park. Obviously, it's our responsibility to coach them to build up play and get them to a certain area of the pitch. But the one thing that I always ask my forward players to do is to play with the freedom to go and express themselves in the final third, and we encourage them to have that interchange, in terms of their movement, and they understand that I've got that trust in them to go and express themselves in that area of the pitch and be as creative as they can be. We don't want to coach players to be robots, and they've got to be, in certain areas of the pitch all the time. And then that's what we had, with players like, Craig Cormack, Mikey Ewan, Luke Barber, Donny Fraser, who, were a real handful for teams. And the interchange of the movement between that front four at times was devastating, and that was certainly a big part on that winning run that we went on, for sure.
So in terms of moving on from Keith, have you got any regrets about how that all came about?
Yeah, look, I think as times went on, there was never a massive fallout. Obviously, I had my reasons for moving on, which I still feel to the day was the right decision. But I look back at my time at Keith really fondly. I had great support from Andy, the chairman, and all of the committee during my time. At Keith, they supported me in terms of the things that we'd asked for, and in terms of the improvements that we felt we wanted to make to the squad and the club in general. The players that we worked with, really enjoyed my time working with them, like we did at Maud. And I feel that as a manager so far, I've been fortunate that we've had really good dressing rooms where we've always had a positive environment. I look back with that fondly. Obviously that was my first Highland League gig at 27, so it was a massive steep learning curve. A lot of things I take from that now that I feel that I've taken away and use that as tools to improve as a manager, and I certainly feel that I'm back in at Huntly. Certainly a more mature person and a more all-rounded manager as a result of that experience.
Yeah. So what would you say is the biggest thing you've learned from that?
I think as a manager, certainly me, I'm always learning. I'm always trying to evolve. I'm always trying to make sure that I'm working as hard as I can to give success for the club that employ me to do a job. And I've learned a lot. As I said, spoke before about the tactical element. And when I went to Keith, it was very much we'll play the way that we're going to play, and it doesn't matter about what team we're going to come up against, because we'll be open, we'll be expansive, and if we score 4 and the opposition went and score 3, we still win the game. So it was really naive in that sense that I feel as a manager I've obviously learned a lot there in terms of our setup and structure overall, within our systems that we utilised, and obviously certain things away, in terms of things that maybe went on in the background that I've certainly taken away and learned a lesson from that side of things as well. So as I said, see it as a positive, because as I said, I feel that I've came out of that as a better person and better manager for the experience.
Yeah. So you went back to Maud. How did you find your second spell?
To be honest, after I left Keith, I probably should have taken a break, from the game at that point. But the call came, and due to my affection that I've got for the committee at Maud and in the club in general, I wanted to go back and kind of help them out. We had a good start. Got off to a good start in the league, and we got ourselves in another cup final with the Girl League Cup, which we lost to Dice on penalties. But mentally, I wasn't in a good place at all at that time, and I think as a result of that, the players and the club, simply didn't get the best out of me in terms of what I feel I could bring to a club. And shortly after that cup final defeat, I remember speaking to Allan Hale at the club about my struggles with my mental health, and he was great, in terms of support that he offered. But we decided, and then this was probably the wrong decision, but we decided, the both of us to, that we continue in the role and just keep talking and things, which to be honest, it probably would have been the right decision to separate there, because that would have been the right thing for the players and certainly the right thing for the club. Yeah. But Robbie Wildgoose then went in there. He took over, and when I left, the club were bottom of the league. Still relatively early in the season, but they were bottom of the league, and Robbie managed to get the club finished. I think it was 6th position that I think they finished in the league. So it showed the quality that was clearly within the squad at the time, and it was great to see Robbie go in and do as well as he did, and get the club finishing where I feel a club like Maud should be.
So just how important is it, obviously, like as a manager, to support your players?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's extremely important, and that's the way I am as a manager. I'm obviously demand a lot from my players in terms of, as I said, I've experienced winning trophies as a player, and every club I go to, we want to win games of football every week. We want to be competing, at the top end of the league. We want to be challenging for honours. But obviously, society nowadays, there's a lot of external factors, with likes of social media and stuff like that. The way that COVID's impacted, people personally with being furloughed and out of work, and the amount of people that's been unemployed has been really challenging. So yeah, it's important. We can offer so much support as a manager, but we're not trained in mental health. So it's important as a club that we've got that support network, and that links in place with certain people who are trained that can give players the support. So as a club, and certainly from experience at Huntly, we've got a fantastic support network in place, not just for mental health, but in terms of all aspects of what can impact a player's performance. The club have got that support network in place, and we're certainly there as a manager, for any player that feel that they need a chat, and there's certainly been cases of that over the course, for sure.
Obviously, you're now at Huntly, so how are you finding it so far?
Yeah, I'm loving it. Really, really enjoying it. Going to Huntly was a no-brainer for me. I spoke to the club 2 years prior when Charlie Charlesworth had obviously left. But at the time, I had only recently left Maud, and my wife was pregnant, and mentally I didn't feel I was in the best place to accept the job at that time. But it was always something that I felt, if I could get myself right mentally, then I would obviously look to get back in and want to get back in at Highland League level. And the opportunity came up to Huntly again, and when the chairman called and we met up and had a chat, it really was a no-brainer to get back in. You just need to look at the history of the football club to see that they've achieved a lot of success in the past. It's a great group of players. I felt they were young, that they could be improved, and we could add our own stamp on things, both through the infrastructure of the club, but also in terms of the style and the system that we wanted to play. And the one thing I found, I'm working with a board and a committee that are extremely supportive, not just in the footballing side, but off the pitch as well. And we want to bring that stability. I think the club had went through a few changes of managers, and when that happens, you tend to get a high turnover of players, because managers come in and they've got their own styles and the way that they want to play, and they want to bring in their own players that they feel can work around what they're trying to do on their own accord. So what we're trying to do at the club at the moment is enhance all aspects of the club that can align with the club's own aspirations, and there's a lot of work went on behind the scenes, since we took over in terms of the head of youth development that we've taken in, and the work that's going on, and the commitment that we're putting into the youth development side of things. All the infrastructure in terms of the facilities that's been improved, the things that we're able to do to prepare the players and give the players the support. And obviously, the support that we've had to obviously improve the squad and give us the depth that would allow us to be competitive. So yeah, thoroughly enjoying it. It was a big risk at the time, obviously, as well, because Gavin Weems and Graham Bain, who had kind of been my assistant and my coach, throughout my management career, both at Maud and then at Keith, couldn't have come to Huntly due to their own personal circumstances. So a big risk in the sense of, going in with Stefan, who he was someone that I hadn't coached with or worked with before. But we were both aware of each other in regards to, when I was at Keith, he was manager of Aberdeen Ladies, and they actually trained beside us. So we'd spoken to each other in passing, and, both saw each other's training sessions, and, he was always something that I was wanting to work with, just based on what kind of saw at the times that he delivered sessions. And, when I had a chat with him, it was a no-brainer to jump at it. I thought his passion, his enthusiasm, his knowledge of the game was outstanding. And, we're linking up and working with Stefan. I think he's an outstanding coach. The biggest compliment I can give him is he's the best coach that I've worked with. And as I said, I've worked with some good coaches in my time. He's got a great game knowledge, great personality, so he's great with the players, but a massive support, for me off the pitch as well. So yeah, loving working with him. And I feel that we're continuing that work with Stefan that can lead to a bright future for Huntly.
So have you got any targets or ambition on how far you want to go with Huntly? Or?
Yeah, well, the long-term target is certainly to get Huntly back up competing. Now obviously we don't have the financial budget that maybe other clubs do, but as I said, it's about putting an infrastructure in place, through our game model and our training model that allows the club to be successful. And, we're working very hard behind the scenes. We feel that within the year that we've been there, we've made huge improvements in terms of, improving the players that's been there already. And, I'm working with a group of players who are probably the best group of players I've worked with in my whole time in football, both as a player and as a manager. It's a great dressing room. There's a real togetherness within the club. And it's a young team. I think our average age is 21.7, so just under 22. And if we can keep the squad together and enhancing that as the years go through, then we certainly feel that we won't be too far away.
What's your ambitions in terms of coaching?
Well, I'm as ambitious as come. I want to go at the highest level that I can. Whatever level that will be, will remain to be seen. But I'm ambitious. I want to try and progress, and have an experience of coaching and managing, within the SPFL in the future, and that's something that we'll work towards. And whether that will be achievable, the time will tell over the coming years. In terms of how successful or unsuccessful we'll be with Huntly.
So what do you think is the biggest thing you've improved in terms of your coaching and management?
I think it's not being so gung ho. I think my manner with the players have changed as well over the years, and the way that I've always been as a manager is like I just try and treat my players the way that I would want to be treated as if I was a player myself, and that's be hard on the players and demand a standard, because as I said, I'm grateful as a player that has success at the Broch, and I know what it takes to win trophies at this level. And it's you learn a lot. You're still learning yet. I'm far from the finished article. I'm still young. I'm only 33, so we're still learning all the time. And with every passing game and every training session, there's always something you take away from those that you feel that you can improve on. And we're constantly trying to improve ourselves as coaches, but also the club at the same time. So the learning never stops, that's for sure. And I'm sure plenty of mistakes will continue to be made throughout the time, but every mistake that's made, it's always an opportunity to learn, and that's the way that I always look at things.
Thanks for listening to the Highland podcast. Hope you can join me next time for another interesting interview. Bye.